The first couple steps are the hardest part, obviously. Just take a leap of faith, trust the system, it's a blast. I told you it wasn't gonna be that bad, Mom. I only got like 461 feet to go.
You're hearing and looking at Mark Eisenhart.
He's also a transformational speaker telling his amazing story. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, I don't know where to begin. Let's begin at, what was it, 450 pounds?
Yeah,
or more that you weighed?
455 at the time. What I can say for sure, it was 455.
And what was it? We're looking at some photos right now. Obviously...
I hardly even recognize that guy.
How long ago was this?
Well, that picture was taken actually a little bit, as you can imagine, I steered away from the camera. So I think that picture was taken when I was probably about 385, 390 pounds. But to answer your question, I got to my top weight after the experience of watching my dad beat cancer to die of liver disease. That was October 7th of 2009.
What got you to that weight? Like, what were you doing beforehand? I mean, I realize, you know, we're going to talk a bit about, you know, the promise you made to your dad, but
right.
What got you to that weight? What was going on in those years that made you get there?
The biggest thing, Mitch, and thanks for the question, I've been in great shape at different times in my life. As I said, I played football and wrestled in college and high school and played in semi-pros, but the biggest thing is a couple post-traumatic stress disorder. I was a poster child for post-traumatic stress.
Really?
Yeah, I worked in the fire service. I was a medic firefighter in Oregon. And frankly, I was like many other emergency service providers, and I wasn't doing the diligence around processing all the things that were piling up for me, the stress that was piling up. I mean, being a firefighter in the largest rural fire protection district in the state of Oregon, they tell you in the first day on the recruit academy, congratulations, you're now working the second most stressful job in the civilian world. The first is the President of the United States. So I wasn't dealing with stress in very constructive and healthy ways back then, and it started piling up. So it was a big part of that. And then, of course, the standard American diet. I mean, I was eating processed foods, and I had been in great shape at different times in my life, but I yo-yoed. I struggled with an eating disorder. My weight was up and down, and it was catching up to me.
And I would assume that eating disorder would be binge eating,
yes.
Obviously, yeah?
Binge eating, overeating, and also at times just, you know, eating processed foods and what I call, you know, mindless eating. I was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. There are only a limited number of things to do at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're watching, you know, DVDs over and over, and I was eating the stuff that I was eating barely qualified as food. And the rule is with the fire service, when the tones sound, you're in your gear, on the rig, out the door in 60 seconds or less. You get back to the quarters, you might have time to talk about it as a crew and kind of do what we call a critical incident stress debriefing. You might not. You might get back to quarters and the bells ring again, and you get to go and again, and this stuff piles up. And anybody that tells you it's not stressful is lying to you, because it is. And you never know what it is, too. If, you know, it could be a car accident, it could be a sudden infant death syndrome, it could be a structure fire, it could be a tech rescue. You're getting hit from all sides with stimuli, and you have to adapt very quickly to it. And in the Bronx, just to give you a little perspective, the first day that I was there in New York City during my externship, we did 4,671 calls in one day.
What?
Yeah, I was wearing a bulletproof vest on a tactical unit out of Jacoby Station in the Bronx, and I found out in the first 2 minutes what I was made of when I was working there.
So a lot of people think that, you know, someone that's overweight, they just, you know, put the food down, get in the gym.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than that. There's a lot of psychology behind it.
That's right, Mitch. It's you know, and so to answer the question, the single most important thing I did was I developed a willingness to deal with the behavioral side of things, what I call the work of the interior, because in many ways, Mitch, I was that fat kid on the playground that everybody made fun of, and I never really had a chance to process that and to cultivate that relationship with my inner child in a healthy way, in a positive way, and in a way that was therapeutic. So it was a combination of those experiences. I recently went back to Ohio, where I'm originally from, and I went back to the grade school where I grew up. And although I have been back there many times, the experience of being on that playground, the memories were flooding back in my consciousness. And I picked up my phone and I called my coach and I called my peak performance specialist, and I said, you know, these experiences made me who I am today. I can taste the dirt in my mouth. I was the guy, instead of being on the playground during recess having fun and bonding with my peers, I was getting pinned down, I was getting pummeled, I was getting bullied, I was getting my face drug in the dirt because I was the fat kid that everybody made fun of. And if you don't process those experiences and deal with them, they don't just go away. They add up. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, you backlog them. And I had made a promise to my dad in the last lucid conversation that I had with him on his deathbed, that I wasn't going to do this. I still get a little choked up when I think about that, sorry. I wasn't going to do this anymore. This is a man who did not let me down one time in 40 years. my dad's integrity was beyond measure. So I made him a promise, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not the man that you raised me to be. I'm going to restore myself to the kind of health that I enjoyed in my youth, in my prime, or I'm going to die trying. And so the light bulb moment was in that sort of moment of great strength, right? You don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have, and I got to find out how much strength I had in reserve. After watching my dad beat cancer to die of liver disease, I weighed 455 pounds and had diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anxiety, depression, a 90% loss of feeling in both feet from diabetic neuropathy, all the comorbidity that goes.
How long ago was this?
A little less than 3 years ago. In 1 year,
weighed 450 pounds.
Yes, 455 pounds. In 1 year without surgery, I completely eradicated all the disease states and dropped 215 pounds down to 240.
What's the number one or two things that you did to lose the weight?
The most important thing was meditation. It was quieting my mind, getting that subconscious mind under control. And then the second thing was the lifestyle changes and the diet changes.
So you are living proof. You are my miracle. You are exactly what I'm trying to preach to America. I swear to you, you are a living example that you can turn it all around.
That I'm a pay-it-forward kind of guy, and I really believe that what worked for me can work for other people.
Yes, and you were at the doctor frequently, and I'm sure they told you time and time and time again, hey, you need to eat better, you need to do this.
But I wasn't doing it. You know, we're the only species on this planet that identifies the right thing to do and then chooses not to do it. And I was that guy. And I remember walking into my doctor's office with a handful of pills and saying, how many more of these do I have to take before I start feeling better? Whenever I feel like I'm doing something that feels difficult, I do something 3 times harder to give me perspective on whatever it is that's going on with me in that moment. And it keeps working. The bottom line is, Greg, it's working.
As everyone knows, America leads in obesity rates,
You're
right?
right.
The whole world.
It's scary.
It is scary.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's about health reasons why we need to change that. And you did create change in your own life, so you're truly an inspirational story.
In the midst of a downward spiral, and it went from bad to worse very quickly. So I was abusing drugs and alcohol, I was binge eating. So
what was the first step in changing your life?
The single most important thing I did was I admitted that I had a problem, and I raised the white flag and asked for help. And I decided that I set my intention that no matter what happens, I was going to get and stay healthy, or I was going to die trying. Because as I said a minute ago, it was only a matter of time before I didn't have that choice. It was only a matter of time before I had a heart attack, and that choice, that option was taken from me.
So did you start with diet? Did you start with exercise? Did you start both?
Actually, I started with being hospitalized, because there's more to it than that. I was severely depressed, Taylor. After my dad's death, I had barricaded myself inside my house, booby-trapped my windows and doors. Excuse me, booby-trapped my windows and doors. I sometimes get a little choked up when I still talk about this.
Yeah, it's emotional.
And I had my dad's sidearm up to my temple for 3 days. So the most important thing I did after I asked for help is I actually did what the Buddha did. I sat down in a chair and did nothing but breathe. And I got comfortable with being uncomfortable for the very first time in my life.
I gotta do that.
Well, developing that willingness to be still and to get to the subconscious mind.
I have not been able to do that yet.
It's huge. It's huge. We're so busy as a culture. So getting to the subconscious mind, Taylor, and also, as I said, getting away from the standard American diet, getting away from the processed foods,